Hello everyone, Maurice and welcome to Tanks Invest. Talk about investing, finance, professional development. For today's favorite items only, the investment on the top of today would be Ethereum ticker ETH. First, I just want to say happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope you have a great week so far. With respect to Ethereum, I'm recording of 7:52 a.m. on an Eastern time. Current trade like the $2,276, up about 4.75%. With respect to media affectation I've been collectively reading this morning, it seems like we are definitely having more of a mixed bag of various different news, but leaning more toward a positive spectrum, right? And we are leaping up also with the correlations because of the fact that we bounced off of the substantive resistance level of $2,150, being supported by a lot of positive news, which subsequently leap up to the next level of resistance at the current level 2,250, right? In respect to some of the news I've been collecting this morning, it's really a kind of a mixed bag, right? Just to name a few, right? Goldman Sachs is applying for DeFi ETF, which is another regurgitation. Now, with respect to the European expansions for their crypto offering to a lot of the European hedge funds going forward, right? Knowing the fact that they currently already have crypto trading offering to a lot of the US customers. So DeFi ETFs is another comparable solutions that they're doing something that similar to the competitors like Jpmorgan offering the 5 specific ETFs that's related to both Bitcoin and Ethereum offering going forward, right? And then we got some other news with respect to Amazon, with respect to my video that I posted yesterday about the Amazon's hiring a product manager focusing specifically on crypto assets going forward. But obviously, with this media affectation, it spins to a out of proportion, right? People thought that Amazon is accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment now, but that's not the facts, right? It's something that they are percolating, they're working towards, right? Hiring a product manager doesn't mean they have someone that's an executor. It's a strategist, right? They are formalizing a value proposition, which is ideally implementing cryptocurrencies or crypto assets into their commerce platform, right? And they require a product manager to identify the roadmap in an operational perspective, in a tactical perspective, in a strategic perspective on how are they going to be able to implement that into their business model going forward, right? AKA the Amazon.com that we use to buy stuff, right? So that's something that's going to take some time. It's not something that's confirmatory yet. So it makes sense why Amazon's denying this right now. It's not now, but it will be, right? It's not if, it's when, if you may, right? And with respect to other news that we have seen so far, collectively speaking, we also got the confirmation with respect to the press release for the FOMC meeting. So we know the FOMC meeting is going to happen today, right? We are going to go through a couple things with respect to commercial papers, money stock measures. We're also going to talk about interest rates, right? But it's going to be hosted more in a private setting, I believe, based on the verbiage that I see on the Fed's website. But the meeting is going to do it in 2 days, right? But with respect to the press release or PR type of specific cadence, it's going to happen tomorrow, right? So I believe we should see some sort of a live stream tomorrow. That's going to be happening on CNBC, on Fox News, or even on YouTube, if you may, right? And I believe the press conference is going to happen at 2 p.m. on the Eastern time tomorrow, right? So something to watch out for. And I was looking at the market earlier today to see if there's any anticipatory pressure, right? It seems like the U.S. dollar is leaning towards more of a spike type of momentum right now, and I think this is more of an inflationary hedge, knowing the fact that, with respect to the Feds, the key topics of discussion is really going to talk about quantitative tightening plan or the tapering plan going forward, right? So if the Fed is going to talk or mention any specific keywords or adjective around tightening or tapering or shifting the time frame for inflations from 6 to 9 months to 3 months from now, obviously it's gonna have some selling pressure across the whole market, not just for crypto but for equity at the same time, right? And just to explain that in a more of a conceptual level, why is that? Why is that inflation is going to drive sell-off on the crypto and the equity side? Is because when you are pulling back the monetary circulations in the market, right? You have less dollars being printed into the market, right? US dollar has less supply in the market, right? And when that happens, you are increasing the value of US dollar because it's less circulation. That's just the basic supply and demand logics, right? So when that happens, investors like you and I, or even institutions, tend to hold their dollars to their heart, right? They don't want to be using, or they don't want to be investing into something else that could, that is not appreciating at the same pace that U.S. dollars is appreciating, right? So that's the reason why it could subsequently drive some sell-off, right, due to the lack of demand, right? Not lack of supply and lack of demand has that imbalance, and when you have that imbalance, specifically, again, it will drive sell-off across the spectrum, right? So hopefully that's helpful. So I'm gonna go through a technical analysis like usual to see how we're hedging going forward, right? With respect to the anti-correlation effect and what will be the anticipated pressure for the FOMC meeting tomorrow, and how is that going to be percolating today, ahead of the obviously the London fork debut that's expected to happen, I believe, if I look at the calendar, next Wednesday specifically. So we basically a little bit, more than about a week from now, 8 days from now specifically. So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. So moving on to the technical analysis for Ethereum ticker ETH, I'm recording this of 8:03 a.m. on the Eastern Time. Currently trading like the $2,271, up about 4.50%. In respect to the last consecutive, I would say 4.5 days of consecutive buying pressure so far, ever since that B-word summit, we got that confirmation from obviously the crypto giants, right? The Cathy Wood, the Elon Musk, the Jack Dorseys, that they are with the stamp of approval and putting the skin in the game, right? Knowing the fact that they all collectively are invested into Bitcoin, obviously. But Elon Musk specifically said it himself that he's invested in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even Dogecoin, respectively, was something to drive a lot of buying pressure across the spectrum, not just specifically for Ethereum, but obviously for the whole entire crypto market, right? Even some altcoin got some picked up pressure from there, right? And ever since that, we also got like supplementary news on supplementing, obviously, the buying pressure that we had on the B-word summit, stemmed from the Jpmorgan news on their 5 ETFs that's going to be being able to offer to their private clients that likes to have some exposures in crypto, specifically just towards Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, within their Grayscale trust, right. And then also subsequent to that, Goldman Sachs also has an aspirations to release their ETF, and also expanding their crypto trading offering to obviously the European side of the house, right? To basically capture that global crypto adoption that we are all expected to happen internationally, right? And then ever since then, we have a lot of, just other positive news, even like including Busta Rhymes, potential investing into Ethereum, but he's a current investor into Bitcoin right now. So with all of these positive news, right, on top of the Amazon news that we heard yesterday from the potential crypto offering, knowing the fact that they hire a product manager for that respective proposition going forward, a lot of buy the rumor affectation and obviously the confirmatory type of affectation at the same time drive the pressure for Ethereum all the way to the 2,432. And when we got to that point, I gave you guys a heads up yesterday that in the technical perspective, we were highly overstretched. The balloon was so inflated that it just needed a little tiny needle for it to pop it, right? And that's kind of what happened exactly, right? So what we did was that we leaped up below the 2,350. We kind of hovered there for a little bit, but that level was not substantive like we mentioned, right? We leaped up to the 2,250, right? But because of the how fast we stretched up already, we were ideally looking to actually leap down to the 2,150, which is a level that we've tested, I would say, if you count today, 26 times right now, right? And that's a level that I gave you guys heads up on. That's a level of comfort, right? We like to lay out our bets for that level, right? Not at the 2,250, not the 2,350. It's the 2,150, right? And today we have some positive news, obviously driving it back up, right? However, with respect to FOMC meeting today, and I looked at the calendar again, right? It's gonna happen. All the media affectation is gonna get picked up around like 2 p.m. tomorrow. They're having the meeting today to talk about the specific things, right? The commercial paper, money stock measures, select interest rates, all those stuff, and it's gonna durate from like 1 p.m. all the way to like 4:15 p.m. and they're gonna continue that tomorrow. But with respect to the press release or like the PR, obviously it's gonna happen after they have some synopsis or summary about what they're talking about. They're not just gonna be debating or having a brainstorming session out loud, if you may, right? Because they need to structuralize their verbiage, their communications in a more systematic way for us to understand what the hell they're talking about when they frankly have no idea what they're talking about yet. It takes some time to obviously brainstorm ideas, right? And so I think we definitely want to watch out for. Would I be dollar cost averaging right now? I think no. I would hold off because of the news that we're having so far. Look at how green we've been so far compared to how red we've been so far, right? And again, like color schemes is not really the way to like obviously do a technical analysis, but just knowing the fact that the momentum has been so positive so far, to cool down a little bit, to reach back down to the 2,150 first. And I think tomorrow we should see some red pressure, just knowing the fact that the US dollar is kind of spiking, it's kind of hedging that. And I don't think we will see anything different because inflation is something that we need to gradually occur. So for them to say like, oh, we're not going to do any inflations anymore, there's no plan to do that. I think that's very unlikely. That will subsequently obviously drive buying pressure across the whole market. But how likely is that going to happen, right? We've been printing money for the last 1.5 years so far with respect to the stimulus checks we've been getting, corporate sustainability that we've been getting so far. So for us to get the other side of the spectrum will be a surprise to me, and that's just my gut feeling. My using logics and how I've been reading the news and how I'm formalizing that in my head so far. It's just to recap all the numbers and the technical analysis. With respect to the level of Ethereum right now, ahead of the FOMC meeting, that we should be getting some pickup on the press release side of the spectrum. I think at $2,150 will be a more safe level for you to dollar cost average at. But if you want to buy it now, totally fine. Obviously, if you hold this for the next 3 to 5 years and also sustain your mentality and your sanity, obviously, because the volatile times can be, a little bit gut wrenching. So I totally understand that. But if you want to be more risk averse like myself, I'm always conservative. I always try to be frugal. 2,150 would be a more conservative level. 2,050 would be an attractive level before breaking that 2,000. And I think the likelihood of actually breaking 2,000 by tomorrow, we might potentially get there if we do have some negative verbiage coming from the Fed, right? 1950 would be kind of an iffy one. Do we break that? If we break 1950, we have a likelihood of actually get down to the 1860. That's just the way it is, right? Because of the technical analysis, how depending obviously the momentum, right? And with respect to the verbiage that we need to listen tomorrow, like how severe and how prompt is the inflationary pressure going to be expecting going forward. So that's something we have to be careful of, and I will obviously keep us updated as we are learning more about what's going to be happening going forward. And respect to corporate adoption, 9,800, 4.6 times your money if you buy, expecting the next 12 months from now based on my technical analysis and the corporate adoption model that I've done so far. That's it for today. Respect my technical analysis on Ethereum Take ETH. Hopefully this is helpful into giving you that clarity on how to maneuver through these volatility ahead of us, right? But feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. Again, I'm always available. I always try to be as helpful as possible to try to help as many people as possible collectively as well, right? So yeah, I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for next coming up.